are other patient factors that can increase complication risks too, so be aware of these and discuss them with your GP if you aren't sure. One of these things, and I get asked about this quite often, is hormone replacement treatment. So I'll try to summarize the evidence for you. For women first, if you're postmenopausal and already on HRT or considering it, there is encouraging evidence that continuing on it can be helpful around hip surgery. Recent large studies show that it's linked to a lower risk of fracture for many years after surgery, while not increasing the chance of revision or blood clots. It supports bone strength around the new implant without adding extra surgical risk in most cases, but we do advise stopping estrogen replacement 4 weeks before surgery. Speak to your GP about whether it's still appropriate for you. Many women find it makes a positive difference to long-term implant stability and comfort. If you're not on HRT, consider that it may be helpful in protecting your bone from fracture, particularly if you're considering hip resurfacing. Okay, so what about men and testosterone replacement? This is something that's rarely talked about in the UK at the moment, but around many parts of the world, it's become increasingly commonly used in men who are fighting to preserve their muscle mass and their inherent vitality. For hip surgery, however, the picture with testosterone replacement is a bit more mixed. If you've got confirmed low testosterone, treatment can help maintain muscle and bone density before your surgery. This may aid recovery and reduce certain fracture risks, which is one of the biggest concerns after hip resurfacing and one of the most devastating complications after total hip replacement. However, recent studies have shown that it can increase the chance of early infection around a new hip and other complications in the first couple of years. It's not something to start or stop without advice. Get your levels checked by your GP or an endocrinologist and discuss the timing carefully with your hip surgeon. There are a lot of other potential issues which should be dealt with well before any surgery. For instance, anemia. That's a low red blood cell count, and that raises the need for blood transfusion and other potentially serious issues. So get blood tests to check your levels if you think this may affect you. Your GP can treat this with iron supplements or refer you if it's needed. Untreated anemia often leads to delays or cancellations of surgery. Heart or kidney conditions also seriously up your risks. Coronary disease has got a relative risk of 1.3 for serious complications, even as far as sudden cardiac arrest and death around the time of surgery. And renal issues can lead to acute failure. If you've got any of these problems, ensure they're as stable as possible and that your medication treatment is as good as it can be. Get a GP or specialist review, perhaps extra tests like kidney function bloods may be required. Unmanaged heart and kidney problems are a classic reason for cancellation. So blood clotting disorders or bleeding tendencies also increase your risks, up to 1.6 times higher in some people. Review any medication like blood thinners with your GP. They may need to adjust or test your clotting. We usually get you to stop these before surgery, but you'll be told the details about that at your pre-assessment depending on your medication. So finally, let's talk about non-prescription supplements to consider. Based on the evidence, there are a few with good support for aiding recovery, but always check with a pharmacist first because they can interact with your medication or conditions. Vitamin D is key for bone healing. Deficiency links to poorer walking and function post-hip fracture, but supplementation with calcium improves outcome if you're low. It takes months to actually affect your bones, so you should get onto this many months before your anticipated surgery if it's appropriate for you. Vitamin C. So this helps with wound healing and reduces inflammation and pain. Studies have confirmed that it's actually really useful and it works quite quickly. So this is something you really should be on for a few weeks before surgery and for the first 6 weeks after. Iron and vitamin B12. So these may be essential if you're anemic and will be prescribed to you if you are. But even if you aren't, ensuring that your iron and vitamin B12 stores are topped up before surgery is sensible. You will bleed during and after your surgery, sometimes quite a lot. So your body's going to need more iron and B12 than usual to rebuild all those new red blood cells. This will seriously deplete your body's stores of these nutrients, so make sure you have enough in your system before your body needs them and carry on taking them for 2 weeks post-op. Whey protein, 30 grams of this per day. This has been shown to reduce muscle wasting and boost strength. Trials after hip fracture in particular show that people have better power and daily function with their rehabilitation. So start this 6 weeks before surgery and carry on while your body is healing for the first 6 weeks afterwards. Creatine. There's no clear strength gains related to surgery, but it may preserve muscle during immobilization. And after your surgery, you definitely won't be taking as many steps per day as you usually would like to, so it may be worth using post-surgery. I have. So for fisetin, quercetin, and NAD+, evidence is emerging, but not proven for hip recovery. Fisetin and quercetin show preclinical anti-inflammatory benefits for arthritis and may help with some of your pain while you try to keep active in the lead up to surgery. Again, I have taken these supplements myself. NAD+ precursors aid fracture healing in animals, but at the moment human data is limited. So the proven ones are protein, vitamin D with calcium, vitamin C, iron, and vitamin D, B12. The ones not proven, but which may be useful, are creatine, fisetin, quercetin, and NAD+. It's entirely up to you around these ones, but always check with a pharmacist that there's no interaction with your normal medication if you take any. Okay. So these steps, taken together, can reduce your risk of complications for up to 10% or even more in very well-prepared patients. I followed them myself and I felt stronger going into theatre and have recovered better. Don't leave it until the last minute. Take control of your own condition. Don't be a passive passenger in your hip journey. Speak to your GP soon if you think you need help with any of your medical problems. So the next episode is going to be on prehabilitation for your actual muscles and the hip itself. If you're finding these videos helpful, please like and subscribe. Share with anyone who you think may benefit from them. As ever, discuss everything with your own doctor or a pharmacist. Your situation may be very different from mine. I'll see you next time and take care.